Hello, my name is Arthur, and in the last video we got our search able to scroll to the first search result and highlight it. So we put in the function to highlight a result, and the function will also be used for the next and previous buttons. So that's what we have going on. It will scroll to it, highlight it, and move the focus away from the text view. So currently the focus is on the next button. So the next thing to do is to make it so that we can scroll to the next and previous search result. So maybe we should call up some of the documentation. Let's look at the documentation for the text editor forward and backward to tag toggle. So that would be GTK text editor, and we'll just call up the documentation on that. I believe those return a Boolean, so we could actually check for a next result. So let's see where that is. Forward to tag toggle. So backward to tag toggle would work the same way. Yeah, those return a Boolean, so maybe to start off we'll try something like getting previous and next buttons functioning without wrap, so it won't wrap from the last result to the first result, and then figure out how to get it to wrap second. So the first thing we would need is the two functions for the buttons to call on their signals. So that would be void next pressed and let's see, these are regular buttons, so just let's go have a look at our other button function here. So we have button click. So this is pretty much exactly how the arguments should read for the values in both this and the one for previous pressed. So it would send a button and G pointer data. So we'll do that one. Let's give a little bit of space around that. And then let's copy that. We'll copy it, we'll paste it, and give the 2 spaces. I like to get 2 spaces between functions. It makes it easier to read. So we'll have next and previous. So those will be our 2 functions. What next and previous will do is they'll make a function call to highlight result. So we'll copy that, highlight result. So what next will send is it will send 0, because that communicates that it's coming from a button press to the function, and we covered that in the last video. And next would be 1. So that's the direction, 0 and 1. On this one, we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to send a 0 and a -1. So that would basically represent our step forward and our step backwards. So let's hook up the buttons signals down in where we create the search bar. We're getting pretty lengthy here at 500 lines, eh? We're up to almost 800 lines. Let's just go down and have a look. Yeah, we're at a little over 800. A lot of white space included in that though. So make toolbar, make notebook, make search. So let's see, we have the signals for the text. We have the close button clicked, the option buttons toggled. So let's just pick on this one. We'll copy this and paste it a couple of times. So let's paste that into here and paste it into here, and we'll bring that forward. And we'll change this to next. Let's see, and we have previous. So previous. Next. Whoops. What did we put those as? Let's try to be consistent a little bit. So we'll just copy these. We'll copy that one and then just fix it. So that's way down here. So we'll just paste these into here and here. We'll change this to next. And that should do everything that we need it to do. So the rest of that would go into here. So at this point we can pretty much just ignore count. And it's a matter of what it does if direction is above 0 or direction is below 0. So from here it should be if I should probably get more liberal with comments. I have like 0 comments on this whole thing. If direction is greater than 0, do this stuff. And if direction is less than 0, do that stuff. So I'm pretty sure that the itters will stay where they're at. So once we get here, itters would be initialized, or count would equal 0, and we've pressed the button with no search result, in which case it'll get kicked out. So we've pretty much handled all of the possibilities from where we're at. So at this point, what we would do is we would want to make start iter equal end iter. So that would be t start equals t end. So that will get our start iter to the end of the first result, or the end of the next result. Either way, it won't matter. Then we would do this. No, we don't want to do that. That would reset the start. That's the initializing the first iter. And that iter should already be initialized. At least I'm pretty sure it should be. I don't think that iters go in and out of scope. They're just there. So this will go forward to the next tag toggle. And pretty much we'd just be doing this right here. And I would actually anticipate that this should do everything that we need it to do. Now, about the only other thing here is probably to use the Boolean. So let's go if. So if there is no forward tag toggle, it's going to return false. And then this won't happen. So that would be a close brace here. And then we'll set this in. So we'll just tab that in. So I'm pretty sure that's how it would read with no wrap. So this has no wrapping. So we'll save that and we'll see if it's going to do what we're looking for it to do. So let's just deselect that and we'll try to compile it. See how many mistakes we got here. Oh, this is a mistake here. We don't want the apostrophe mixed in there. That's just confusing. Void, next clicked. So that probably resulted from the other one. No. Let's see. Void next clicked. Oh, I see what I've done. I copied in a bracket there. A drawback's a copy and paste script. Oh. Apostrophes. Okay, there we got it to go. We'll load up our test document. So we have that one. Let's go down a little bit. Forward is a word that comes up a lot. So I don't know what that bounce was. It's a little bit odd. So we'll search for forward. It highlights the first one. And we'll try next. Ooh, that's a big invalid text buffer iterator. So, yeah, I know what's going on there. Is its scope. So we're going to add the itters for this function to our ever-growing list of globally declared things that maybe shouldn't be globally declared things. So if we do that, I think that will fix the problem, because what happened was the first time it found the results, the itters worked, but the second time it came around, they were redeclared, which uninitialized them, and it made them stop to exist where they were, and we need them to stay where they were. So we'll just try that again. So we'll do that. Load up our test. And yeah, with my limited experience in C and GTK, I suppose that putting all these things global is not really the way that things are supposed to get done. So it's not the best practice, but with, under 2 months of experience in either C or GTK, a little bit of pushing my luck is probably the thing to do. So let's see if this gets us working. If not, yeah, we're gonna have to find something else. So with them global, we are going through them. Let's see what happens for the scrolling. I think that the scrolling is reasonable, and maybe it would be possible to make it scroll up a little bit, but I think that it's actually easier to find this way. So let's go through our results to see what happens when we hit the end. So we got 21 results. This is the end. There's no errors or anything, but it doesn't have wrap, so we're not wrapping around in this event. And yeah, if we wanted to wrap around, we would have to send the itters up to the start. But let's skip wrapping around. So I don't think that's super important. And I think that once we get the 2 buttons working, that people will be able to figure out a way to wrap around for themselves. Because basically what we'd be doing is this function. So yeah, in a way it probably also makes sense to divide these into 3 functions and actually just pass the expectation out of here and to divide it into 3 proper functions, because this function is kind of doing more than it probably technically should. Okay, so now we want to do previous. So previous, we start off with the start itter and the end itter on the appropriate parts of the word. So if we were to go and do this, so we'll take this statement, we'll copy it out, paste. So if we were to go backward to tag toggle from here, and we'll send start backwards to the tag toggle. Well, actually, let's do end. Then let's close this bracket to make sure that we do that. So start equals end, t start equals t end. Backward to tag toggle, except now we're doing start. The scroll to iter won't change. And this shouldn't change. And about the only thing to see is that our focus stays out of where we don't want it. So as long as the focus stays out of the text view during this, then everything's working perfectly. So we'll load up our test document. We'll scan down a bit for forward as the keyword again. So we know that we get 21 hits on forward. It's gone to the first hit, so the only direction to go is next. We'll go previous and see if that works. Okay, previous did not work. Did I actually save that? I'd imagine that I simply didn't save it. So we'll make sure that's saved this time, to make sure we're not chasing a goose. Sometimes I just forget to save, and then I'm like, oh, what's going wrong? And I start changing something, except there was nothing actually wrong, and I'm changing it for no reason. So that's actually something to be pretty careful of, because we don't really want to be doing that. So next, previous. Okay, so previous is not working right. Something about that is really quite wrong. really wrong. So something there is desperately wrong. We'll have to review that to see what I've done wrong there. So the iters are in the proper place. Backward to tag toggle. And end. So this would be the problem right here. We have to go and t-start, because it's the one in the right place. So start, end equals start. Let's get this straight. End equals start. So now the end is at the end of the previous result, and so is the start. Then we want to go start to toggle back to the next toggle. Now that should be correct. I just got, yeah, having end here would make, because if this was the word, end would have just went like this. And then start would have went to the other one. And that was the behavior that we actually saw. That's why it was selecting in between rather than doing the right selection. So this should get it working right. Hopefully. We'll cross our fingers and leave that little escape hatch for me to go, well, I thought that it would work right, but it turns out I'm wrong. So we'll next, previous. So let's just check the scrolling is all good. Okay. So at this point, what we would do to reinitialize something, if we hit the top, we can just make the function call again to reinitialize. Or actually, if we hit the bottom, so in this direction, we could actually just make the function call again. So how that would look would be, we would go else, and we won't need more than one line. We call the function, so this would just be a recursion. We would pass it 0 for the direction, and we would pass it limit. So it would just reinitialize itself. So that would actually handle looping it in the forward direction. Looping it in the backward direction, that will involve writing a second version of this that's built to initialize. Like if we go up to the top, we'd have to initialize at the end and start the backward search as the initialization. So we'll make sure that's saved, and we'll do that. Well, there's this silly one-line typo. I should try to be more careful. Maybe I could do one whole line without the typo, without having a mistake in it. Oh well. I figure it's okay to make mistakes, because I'm getting pretty far in this project, and actually a little bit further than I expected to make it. So if we just go through, we're going to go all the way down, we're going to hit the bottom, and it just bounced up to the top. So we're now at the top result. So that wrapped around no problem. So that gets us a wrap in the forward direction. So the wrap in the backward direction, what it's actually going to look like a lot like is this function. So let's see, that's going to be an else with a bracket. We'll just do that. So we're going to take this whole function, because that's going to save us some typing and get us there faster. So we're going to paste that in there. Let's take this one and bring it back. Let's take these ones and push them forward, so that we have our proper spacing, we have our bracket right. So text buffer, get enditor. So we'll get the enditor. A text editor, backward search. To tag toggle. This time we'll do end. And search tag, start equals end. Backward to tag toggle, start. And that should get us our wrap. So that's a little bit, that function's a little bit wordy, like it's a little bit lengthy, but it's going to do what we want it to do. So yeah, let's see, what do we got missing here? So where did okay. So that's actually this one's closing bracket. Let's get this one, its closing bracket in place. It's just a bracketing error again. So we'll load up our test document once again. So if this works, we'll be to our next thing, which would be the replace and replace all buttons. And then once those are done, geez, we've gone so we'll go forward a little bit and then we'll go backwards. Okay, so what happened there? We'll have to figure that out. But that did not work out. Okay, so there's the problem there. When I sent the iter, I forgot to change it to end. So now that should be properly, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. So hopefully that will get us properly initialized in the backward wrap for that. So by now, people have probably memorized my entire desktop files. Seen them enough times. You'll notice there an old book for a beginner C guide. So that got us to the bottom. So now we're able to wrap in the two directions. So now that we got the general function down, we should check on just other aspects here. And I realized something about the way that we're grabbing focus. So let's see what happens when we start changing our keyword. What happens is we keep losing focus because we decided to make the next button global and have the focus go to the button. So probably that was a mistake and the focus should be getting sent to the field. So I think that's the way that we should change this to get it so that it hasn't broken our ability to have that active search. So let's see, where did we put the button? We put the button right here. So we're going to cut that out. We'll go down to where the search bar is made and we'll make the field global. And yeah, that's just my best solution for that issue. And would probably bear, noticing that, we're a little bit liberal on what we're making global. So let's copy this. We won't declare it here, we'll declare it global, and then we'll amend where we're grabbing the focus to in the function. And see if that gets us a more desirable function from it. So at grab focus, we'll change this to field. And that's not very descriptive for a global variable, but this is really getting things functioning and So that's probably, we have to call it what it is in entry. It's complaining that it's not declared. It isn't declared. Going to be all sorts of complaints about that. So another typo. Oh, good grief. Highlight result from incompatible type. Maybe it would have accepted widget here. And it was wrong to change that, because that's not what it was complaining about. So we'll change this back to widget, and hopefully that will resolve the grievances coming from the compiler. Okay, that's got us going. So this should be it. This video's gotten a little bit long, but yeah, it's one of those things. It's kind of a challenging function that we're making here. So we'll use the wrap. We'll try our see how actively we can search. So that's working much better. If we go into whole word, there's probably 0 results. And yeah, that's functioning a little bit better to have it that way. So I think that's acceptable for now. Yeah, the issue with all of the global things, there's probably a better way than doing it this way, but I don't know it yet. So this is kind of just the best material that a beginner has to offer. So that's what we have for this video, and in the next video we'll come back and we'll look at the replace and replace all functions and see if we can get those working. So until then, I hope this was helpful enough, and take care.